single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
Hey there, Cerise here. Thank you for joining me and welcome to Storytime from Sosua Shores. Guys, I'm located in the north coast of the Dominican Republic. This story comes to me from the south coast of the Dominican Republic, Punta Cana. We're going to name this woman Marlena. As you know, I keep the names confidential. Any pictures you send to me are also kept confidential. Okay, so the story itself starts in Sosua. It starts with Marlena's mother and her father, both of them Dominican. Marlena's mom was very young when she got pregnant with Marlena. She was 16 years old, and her father was 18. Her father, when Marlena's mother was pregnant, was taken with his family to New York. As he was in New York, he still stayed in contact with Marlena's mother, but he wasn't able to come back here for when Marlena was born, and he didn't come back for 4 years. It got to a point where Marlena's mother thought she would never see him ever again. So let's get back to before the 4 years. Let's get back to when Marlena was 6 months old, and her mom, she was working in the colmado. Now, this colmado that her mother was working in belonged to the family for many, many years. It belonged to Marlena's mother's grandmother's family. And so Marlena's grandmother was the one running it now, and Marlena's mother was helping out. Marlena was raised in the colmado pretty much. In the colmado is where Marlena's mother found her new husband. So a colmado is a convenience store, and you find them all through in Sosua. You can find them all over Pedro Clasante, the main roads, also Alio Martinez. You can find them all over. They are convenience stores that sell almost everything you can think of. So this was a convenience store that was very popular with the gringos and gringas, so to speak, the foreigners. One day, a foreigner walked over by the colmado and met Marlena's mom and really fell for Marlena's mom. Now, Marlena's mom was not a working girl. She was a studying type of woman. She used to study a lot. She knew that Marlena's dad was in New York, and one day she was hoping he would send for her, and so she wanted to be ready. She wanted to have her English ready, so she was studying a lot of English and other languages too. She was always making sure that she taught Marlena as much as she could. Even as a baby, she would speak English and Spanish to Marlena. One day, a German guy was by the colmado, and he said to her, hey, if you're interested sometime, I'd love to take you out. Now, Marlena's mother was not interested in going out, but she was interested in getting money to be able to go to New York, even on a visa, and pay for her own ticket, because that was the problem. She didn't have any money to get to New York, even if Marlena's dad's family could send a visa for her. The money to get the ticket was very tight, as you could imagine. So she thought, maybe a foreigner would treat her good. Again, she wasn't a lady of the night. She wasn't a working girl. She wasn't a pay-to-play type of girl. She was a straight woman, but she thought if there's any way she can get any type of money, that would be great. So eventually, this German man and Marlena's mother became very close. He liked Marlena's mother because she was not a pay-to-play lady, and he would take her out for dinner, and he was dating her like a real dating, like courting her. For her, it wasn't dating. For her, it was getting to know someone and enjoying the fruits of getting to know him. being able to get food, being able to save money, all that little stuff. She was looking at him more like a friend. He was looking at her more like someone that he was trying to build a relationship with. Eventually, she had to make a decision. After a year and a half of being with this guy and being very not too intimate, not obviously intimate anyway, that's what Marlena's grandmother told her. They decided that they were going to move in with this guy. Okay, Marlena's mother, she wasn't taking this guy seriously. She wasn't looking at him as a boyfriend per se, but she was looking at him as, not, I don't want to say a meal ticket and be that raw, but I do want to say he was a convenience to her. So they ended up moving in with him. When they moved in with him, it was a great experience for Marlena because she was then raised in a very affluent area in the Dominican Republic. When she was ready to go to school at age 4, she started to go to school and like daycare and everything, and she was already speaking English, German, and Spanish. And she had a nanny, she had a maid, they had a maid and everything. They lived very well, and her nanny was Haitian. So she spoke Creole, a little bit of Creole, and she had a very good life. When she was 4 years old, her dad came back to the Dominican Republic for a visit. Now, when he left for New York, he was 18. He went with his family, but he went immediately to work. And he worked and he worked and he worked to provide for his wife and his daughter. He didn't go to New York and forget about his family. So when he visited the Dominican Republic, it was under the impression that they were going to start getting the paperwork ready and rolling for him to be able to get Marlena's mother to New York and Marlena. Now, at this point, when he visited, the mother was just, she couldn't focus on her life. She couldn't. Her boyfriend was back. Her husband was back. The child of her father. The father of her child was back. And she hadn't seen him for 4 years. Could you imagine? Of course she was going to ditch the German dude. And of course she was going to take her child with her and go see the dad. And that's exactly what she did. She went to the dad's area in San Francisco, I think it's called, Rio, San Francisco. You can look it up. She went to that area. She met him there, got right on the bus and picked up her daughter, didn't even tell the German guy where she was going, and went straight to meet her husband with her child and stayed with him for the 2 weeks that he was here. Didn't even tell her husband. They weren't married, but that's what we'll say. That's what we say here in the Dominican Republic and around the world as well. Common law is your wife or your husband. You don't really call them girlfriend or boyfriend after you had children and stuff like that. So, it was her husband pretty much. And due to circumstances, she wasn't able to be with him. But throughout those years, they were in contact completely and fully. Now, obviously, she was breaking off a little bit of intimacy with the German dude every now and again. Otherwise, how could she keep him so quiet on the side? And why would he be taking such good care of her child and her? So clearly she was doing a little something, something, right? But she wasn't doing so much that she was committing to the guy. She was probably cooking for him, cleaning for him, making him feel like a king, and every now and again, like I said, breaking a little something off for him, but probably not so much that it made her feel like she was cheating on her husband as well, right? There's that fine line, I would have to say, that most women in that position would have to kind of balance on. So anyway, sitting here drinking some coffee, guys. It's early in the morning. I'm making this story because I got to get some news today about the new quarantine. We got to figure things out, and I'll let you guys know the update. But now back to this woman. Now, she went and she took her child quick time, and she went all the way to see that man, her husband, where he is. She stayed with him for 2 weeks. Didn't even tell the German guy where she was going. She didn't even care. She just wanted to see her husband. Now, all of a sudden, the grandmother didn't say anything either. The grandmother knew. Marlena? Sorry, Marlena. I forgot the name I gave her. Marlena's grandmother knew where they were. The grandmother was very happy for Marlena to meet her dad, but the grandmother was also very concerned because the grandmother knew that Marlena and Marlena's mother would be leaving the country one day. And it made the grandmother sad. But the grandmother was very happy as well to see that her granddaughter and her daughter will have the opportunity to make a better life for themselves. Even though she felt the German guy was just as much of a great opportunity, if not better. The grandmother still supported her daughter and what her daughter was doing, and she told the German guy that her daughter had to leave for the campo to take care of her auntie. So the grandmother, Marlena's grandmother, said that Marlena and her mother had to go take care of Marlena's grandmother's sister, if you get what I mean. So Marlena's great aunt in the countryside. The German guy said, well, where are they? I'll go find them. Tell me where they are. And the grandmother played like she didn't know how to explain where it is because it's so far out in the campo and there's no streets there and all that stuff. And he had to believe her. So for 2 weeks, he didn't know where Marlena was. And that was, to him, his daughter. Imagine, 4 years he has them in his house, doesn't even know about the husband in New York, has no clue that the husband exists. He just thought to himself that Marlena's mom was left with the kid. And he never bothered asking. He just assumed that the father was not around. He just assumed that the woman was single and wanted him. So guys, take that as an in right there. Always ask where the father is, how long they've been broken up for, where the father lives, everything like that, okay? Always ask questions. So Marlena's dad went back to New York, and Marlena and her mom went back to the villa, and they're living very nicely again and everything. And the German guy kept asking Marlena, where did they go? And Marlena's mom told her, don't say anything. Please don't say anything. Now, Marlena called this German guy Daddy. She called him Daddy throughout the years. The only reason why the mother allowed that to happen was because she wasn't even sure if the real father was coming back or not. Even though she was speaking to him all the time, she didn't know how real that dream was going to unfold. She had no clue what the reality was going to be, because a lot of her friends, the same things, right? A lot of people, they go to New York, they find a new woman or whatever, and they forget about their family here or what have you. It happens all around the world. From Jamaica, Africa, everyone, right? They get to North America, they may start a new life and forget about their past family. So it's very common that could happen. Okay? And so that's what she wasn't really clear on. Did her husband love her or not? Her husband, was he coming back for her or not? If not, she needed to secure a good lifestyle for herself and for her daughter, because it was tough for her. So, that was the catch-22 for her. Now, she never told the German guy about the father, again, because she didn't really know what was happening. The German guy now, he's trying to pull and pry information from Marlena, but Marlena was not having it. Marlena was 4 years old, and she met her dad for the first time, and she could speak English and she could speak Spanish, and she was a very smart little girl. And her dad could speak English as well, very well. He learned English while he was in New York, and he was very proud of, his little girl. And she can remember speaking to him on the phone every now and again, but she never called him Daddy. She always called him by his name. Now that she was 4 years old and her mom introduced them together in person, she told Marlena, "This is your real daddy." And Marlena was like, "Oh, well, I love this. I have a real dad. Wow." And that made her feel good. It made her feel like that's her real dad. Now she's seen him in person and she could identify with him. So she became protective of him. And that was the first time she had to tell a lie. That's the first time she learned that she could get something from the German guy as long as she lied. Her mother can have a very good home as long as she lied. She could have a very good school as long as she lied. She can remember her mother saying to her, if you tell the German guy about your dad, there's no more pool, no more friends come over. That's it. You live at your grandmother's house." And the grandmother's house was a small 2-bedroom Dominican home. The grandmother was living off funds from the colmado. And the colmado is not like a big grocery store with international brands. The colmado you can go to and buy 25 pesos worth of rice. And for instance, they open up the rice for you and they weigh it. And you just tell them you want 25 pesos worth, or sausage. You can buy salami, 25 pesos worth of salami. That's 50 cents. And you can go buy that, 50 cents American. And so in the colmados, you can even buy 2 pieces of bread. You don't have to buy packages like you would in the grocery store. So that's the key to the colmado. It's economical, and it is the way to go, especially if you're a single person as well. And you don't want bread to go bad and everything like that. So that's why a lot of foreigners will shop at the colmados that stay in Airbnbs along Pedro Clisante, because it's a very convenient way for them to go and get meager food, eat meagerly, and economically. So that's what was happening at the colmado. So the grandmother wasn't really making a lot of money for herself. And so it was more like a threat when Marlena's mother said to Marlena, "You'll have to go back there if you open your mouth about your dad." And so Marlena decided that she was going to have to keep that secret and not say a word. Now, a year later, and the German guy, he just kind of forgot about it. He swept it under the carpet. He didn't ask her much anymore. Marlena said she can remember saying she was with her auntie, and she was with her auntie. She was with her auntie at her dad's place, on her dad's side, right? So it wasn't like she was lying too much in her little mind, but really at the end of the day, it was a big lie. So now, a year later, the mother is preparing to go to New York. And she does not tell this guy, the German guy, what she's up to. But she tells the German guy that she got a visa to go to New York. She told the German guy that she's going to visit her family. Now, the German guy wasn't sure how she got this visa and where this family came from, but it looked legit. And he wished her luck. He was like, "Wow, okay, wow, yeah, go then." And he was very proud of her. And he thought, "You should go. You deserve this. Like, it's nice to travel." He wanted her to go and expand her mind. He trusted her. So she got on the plane. He took her to the airport. He gave her money and everything for her 2-week trip there. And she went for 2 weeks to New York, and she stayed. She had a really good time, and she came back. And when she came back, she was a new woman. She was a brand new woman, and the German guy could see that. The German guy asked her, "What's going on?" And Marlena could hear in the next room. She said she can remember her mother saying she's moving to New York and she needs him to take care of Marlena for 8 more months. Marlena can remember hearing exactly 8 months. Can you take care of my daughter with my mother? Help my mother. And he said, yes, of course, of course. And that's all Marlena remembers in regards to her mom. So her mom left. Her mom left her with her grandmother, and the German man did help. The German man put two and two together. He was very hurt, but he still treated Marlena like his own child. He had no children of his own, and he was never married before. But he knew at this point what happened. He could see. People were telling him. But he accepted it. He was like, you know what? It is what it is. He didn't go into it as a fool. He didn't go into it blind. He knew this was a woman that was 20 years younger than him. So he was happy with what he got while he had it. And you know what? Marlena was a wonderful addition for him, and he loved her very much. But after he lost Marlena's mom, he started to do a lot more drinking. He didn't have as much purpose. He started to get a lot of pay to play play to pay girls. And the grandmother didn't want that around Marlena, because when he was babysitting Marlena, he would often every day pick her up from school, after school, and he would cook dinner for her and keep her until 9 o'clock at night. At 9 o'clock at night, he would go to the colmado and drop her off with her grandmother. And as she got older, she would stay at the colmado, so he would pick her up for lunchtime, and he would pick up Marlena at lunchtime, take her to his house, make lunch for her, take her back to school, and then after school, he would take her to the colmado and drop her off there, because she started to help at the colmado after school. Okay? And that's when he would start to play more and more and more. And he started to get so drunk, his life started to wither away. He stopped taking care of his villas. He stopped taking care of his properties. He was selling things off that were worth way more. But he was just sad and sick. And he was more surprised that Marlena's mom never asked for anything except for him to help take care of the daughter. He wanted to help the mother out with more. He used to say, how come your mom doesn't contact me and ask me for any money? Like, your dad's taking that much good care of her? Like, how come she doesn't ask me for anything? She doesn't contact me for anything? Like, he always wanted to be of use to her. But Marlena's mom was so appreciative of him taking care of Marlena. He was still paying for great schools for her, private international schools. He was taking very good care of her uniforms, her clothing. She ate very well. He had an educational fund set up for her. Everything. He did everything for her. Now, when he died, he passed on. He was 20 years older than the mother, and he was drinking a lot. He passed on. He passed on in the Dominican Republic in his sleep, and everything was left to Marlena. Marlena's mother came down here, and Marlena's mother sold off a lot of the stuff. Marlena was a little too young at the time to comprehend what was going on, but she was about 16. She was here for a very long time. After she was 13, she would not go to New York. She refused to go with her parents. She didn't want to. She didn't want to go there at all. She wanted to stay here with her grandmother. She wanted to just be here. She had no reason to leave. She lived a really good life. And she saw pictures of New York, and she saw that her mom and her dad were in love and enjoying each other's company. And the mom had a new baby, and she had a little brother now. So, she just had her life here. She just didn't want to go to New York. And she still feels the same way. She did visit New York since, and I'll get to that. So now what happened was the mother came here, and the mother took the property and sold it off. And of course, she knew that Marlena was going to be okay, because the mother fixed up the colmado, and the colmado they owned, the land that the colmado was on, they owned as well. And that was going to Marlena as soon as the grandmother died. And Marlena's mother knew that. So Marlena's mother wanted a little bit of a cushion too while she was in New York. And Marlena's mother was like, hey, that German dude died. It's not just your stuff, Marlena. Like, I'm the one that was knocking boots with the dude for a little while. I deserve a little something, something from my work, you know? So that's pretty much what the mother's thinking was. And the mother took what she wanted to take, and she sold, like I said, sold off property and everything. Most of it couldn't be fixed up anyway. Some of the stuff was just a little too old, and it was better to sell it than to fix it. And that was it. Marlena's mother dashed back out again and went to New York and lived her life with her husband and their son. And they understood that Marlena did not want to leave here. So Marlena was here, and her grandmother died. Now she had nobody. She had her dad's side of the family that she met. She didn't really see them often, not at all. But the family that she had in Sosua was her grandmother and her grandmother only. So friends and family, people she called Tio and Tia that she grew up with, aunt and uncle, but not real blood. Her real blood was her dad's side of the family. And again, they were in like San Francisco, here in the Dominican Republic, a little barrio off, a little town off in its own. And she didn't go there often. I think it's about an hour or 2 hours away from here. She really didn't go there often at all. So for her, it was an inconvenience. So she had friends here that she always hung out with and everything. She had a good life. At this point, she wasn't really into guys too much, because the guys that she met, most of them were older foreigner men who she wasn't into. And then the other guys were younger Dominican men who already maybe had kids, and her grandmother warned her against not getting with. So she felt like she was stuck between a rock and a hard spot. Also, she was such an intelligent young lady that she wasn't about to just be with anyone. So she was putting herself on hold for the good one. Some time passed, and one day, and her grandmother always told her as well too, never tell anybody what you have, especially if it's a foreigner. Never let a foreigner know that you have more than them, because she did. She had a colmado that was worth lots. That land is worth a lot. She still owns the land, and she rents out the colmado. But it's worth a lot in Sosua. So in any case, what she did was she met this foreigner. This foreigner said to her that he was into buying a property, and he'd like her help. He wants her to show him around, and when are her days off. And she told him that she works there from 7 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. And he was like, what? You got to talk to the boss about this. That's too many hours. And she was like, oh, it's okay. I'm used to it. I've been working here for a while now. And he's like, holy, no way. There should be another employee. I mean, can't you get someone to work for you one day and I'll pay the person? And she was like, okay, all right. So she got her friend to work, and he paid her friend to work for the day. And him and her, they went out. And they traveled the countryside, and then he ended up paying her friend to work there for a whole entire week. This was a Canadian guy, for a whole entire week. And him and her, Marlena and this dude, let's call him Tim, traveled all around the country, and they enjoyed life. They ate food, and the average thing that people do here, the normal thing. And he fell in love with her, like normal. And she fell in love with him a little bit too. They were around the same age. He was a little bit older than her. But, she fell in love with him a little bit too, because she didn't really have anyone before that to treat her so sweetly, except for the German guy, and that was her stepdad. So after the guy left, he went back to Canada, and they stayed in touch back and forth. He said to her, how come you don't have a business? Like, did you ever think about getting a business? You're so smart, And she said to him, well, and she wanted to tell him that she owned the colmado, but she didn't know how. She just didn't. She wanted to follow what her grandmother said. She didn't want to let the foreigner know what she owned, what she had in her account, So she said, and he's like, I'm going to buy that colmado for you. And she was like, oh, no, I don't think it's for sale. No, I don't think it's for sale, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, I'm buying it for you. And she was like, okay, well, I'll let you know information on it. And that was it. They spoke every night, all the time, until one night he said to her, "Baby, I'm tired. I'm going to go in the house now." She said, "In the house? How come you're not in the house right now?" He told her, "Oh, he was out in the car. He didn't feel like going in the house." She said, "Do you always talk to me while you're in the car?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah." She's like, "Oh, okay. Well, why don't you go in the house and contact me, and, we will talk later on tonight before bed." So that night, he didn't end up calling her. And the next morning, she was worried. She knew the flex. She knew it. So she contacted him very early in the morning, and he answered the phone, and he said, "Hey, baby, sorry about last night. As soon as I got in the house, I fell asleep. I showered, and I wasn't able to talk to you." And she's like, "Okay, no worries. I got a little bit worried, but I'm glad to hear that you right now and everything's all right. Can we talk tonight?" And he said, yeah, of course we can. As soon as I get home from work, I'll call you like always. And then after I get out of the shower, if I'm not too tired, I'll give you a shout." And she said, "Oh, please, just call me anyway, even if you're not too tired." Well, he did it again. He called her before he went inside the house, and then all of a sudden, of course, he went to sleep. So the next day, she decided that she was going to do a little investigating of her own. And she went on Facebook and she started to look for his name. She couldn't figure out why she didn't do this before, but she found him on Facebook. She found him in LinkedIn, and she also found him on Twitter. Now, those three forms of media, social media, she's bound to find something. And she did. She found that he was married. Now, he told her he wasn't married. And he also told her he had no children. And it made her very angry when she saw that he lied. So she decided that there was nothing that was ever serious that could unfold between the two of them. She lives here in the Dominican Republic. She's heard the stories time and time again where guys come down here, they have a wife, they fall in love with the woman, and they keep the woman here on the side. And eventually they end up forgetting about the woman here on the side because they have to keep up with their daily life in their own country. They have responsibilities, and they have to make sure that they live up to them. They have obligations in their own country, and it's very difficult if they have a wife and children, alternative type of lifestyle, whatever. It's very rare that they'll be able to keep both lifestyles going at the same time. And so therefore, the woman here, who is the one far away, and the mistress is usually the one that's overlooked, unfortunately. So Marlena, at this point, really had only two options. One, accept him and the circumstances that he was in, with hopes that one day he would leave his family and join her in the Dominican Republic to live the life that he wanted to live with her, or, which all of us know here, like, that's pretty much not really reality thinking, right? The chances of that happening were really slim to nothing. So she could do that, or she could leave him. Those are the two options: stay with him or leave him. But there was a third option floating around that she decided she would do, and that one's called revenge. And what she did was she said, "Okay, you want to buy my business? You can buy my business." What did she do? She had a lawyer draw up fake documents, and he bought the business for her. Now, she didn't stop there at all. She's like, this man has a husband. This man has children. This man was trying to hurt her. So what did she do? She took that money. She sold him her business for $45,000, right? Just not the land, just the business itself. But it wasn't really, it was false documents, and he trusted her. he trusted her, and he thought that she was getting that business and everything was going to be tight, and the two of them were going to own a business together. Now his frame of mind was in the thought that he has a mistress. She doesn't know about his woman and children and his country. It was a secret. He didn't think that she would try to Facebook him or anything. Could you believe that? And then, not only that, because she got his real name from a transfer that he had sent her and to Caribbean Express. She got his real name then, and that's how she figured out his name on Facebook. But at this point, he didn't think that she would even do that. And she did anyway. She didn't tell him that she did it. She didn't tell him that she found out all his information. So when he made his trip down to buy her business, he bought it from her with the falsified documents and everything. And then he left. When he left, she was acting like everything was fine and dandy. She sold it for $45,000. That money was cash, cold cash that he gave her. He was thinking that the two of them now had a business together, that now he had a mistress that he could keep secret. And whenever he came to the Dominican Republic, he had this sexy, beautiful Dominican woman that he would have, sex all the time while he's here, have a business, blah, blah, blah. Well, she had other plans for him. And what happened was she started to contact him when he was in his country, when he was in Canada. She contacted him. Oh, the roof is leaking. There needs to be repairs. The roof wasn't leaking. Oh, this went out, that went out. Nothing went out. And he said to her that he wanted to extend the colmado and make it a colmado cafeteria, where she can cook, because she was a very good cook, where she can cook and where people can sit down and buy beer and everything. And he wanted to make it like gourmet style and also sell foods like poutine and everything of that nature. And she thought the idea was great. So he told her he'd start building. He thought it was his place, right? He bought it. He told her he bought it for her, but of course he bought it and put it in his name. The documents were all in his name. The falsified documents were all in his name. And even when he was buying it, he said to the lawyer behind Marlena's back that this is his place. He doesn't want later on for Marlena to take it from him. He said to the lawyer, you know how Dominican women can be. I don't want that to happen. And the lawyer wasn't even a real lawyer. The lawyer just said, yeah. The lawyer even said to Marlena, you know what he said when you were out of the room? That this blah, 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 blah. And Marlena said, okay, well, yeah, you know what? He shouldn't have cheated on his wife. And that was it. And Marlena felt like he was getting back whatever he was trying to dish out. And so he was sending money for the new extension on the for the new extension for the cafeteria lounge. He was sending money, and she was charging him double price. So for material and everything, she was charging him double price. And he didn't even know, because it was automatically more economically cheaper anyway to build, right? So he didn't realize that he was being gouged. When he would come here to visit, he would think that's his place. He'd have all his friends meet him there. And so business was doing really, really good. And she wasn't dating anyone else, really. She wasn't cheating per se, but she was keeping her options open. And so one day, old man, he was passing by, and, him and her started to get close. And she did the same thing. She sold the place to him. They were getting close for a few months, and he was an older man. And she said to herself, he said to her he'd like to own a business one day, and he could see that she was building and putting money into it. And he asked her, he's like, where are you getting the money to put into this cafeteria? And she said that she was getting the money from a friend in Canada. And he said, oh, boyfriend? And she said, oh, no, the guy's married, but, it's just he's helping me with my business. And so the old man said, I'll help you with the business. And she's like, oh, yeah? And he's like, yeah. He's like, maybe sell a piece of it to me. This old man was aware that it was hers, because this old man was from Bate. Not from Bate, but he was here from many years, over 2 decades. So he knew who the family was. He knew her grandmother and everything like that. And, he always had an attraction for this young woman, for Marlena. But Marlena, she never really spoke to him before too much, just with respect every day when he was getting his bread and his coffee and his egg from her colmado. Well, this day, for some reason, he started to talk to her, and, he offered her money to go in on the business. And she took it. And he thought he was buying into a business with her. And she got him to sign some faulty papers. And he was a very, very old man. He had a daughter. The daughter came down to visit the colmado. The daughter didn't live in the Dominican Republic. The daughter came down to visit the colmado and everything. And he said to the daughter, "This is half of this is yours. When I die, you're going to own a business in the Dominican Republic. You and Marlena together are going to own this together." And Marlena knew that once he died, that was going to be hers anyway. And she was just like, yep, Poppy, that's right. And as soon as he died, right, which was a year later, bam, the daughter comes down. She's obviously getting all this stuff together. And she goes over to Marlena and she said, "I'm really not interested in running this place with you. But if you want, you can buy me out. What's it worth?" And Marlena told her, like, "I don't know what you mean." And she's like, "Well, what's this place worth? Like, if you want, give me 10,000, 20,000, let's say. And that's enough. I won't take any more." And Marlena said, "You can't take anything, not 1 cent. This doesn't belong to you. This belongs to my family. It's been in my family forever." And the woman said, "Yeah, but my dad invested in half of it. My dad told me that it's half his business. I have the papers." And she said, "Show me the papers." And she's like, "You don't know about these papers?" Marlena said, "No, your dad was always joking. When your dad would tell you, 'Oh, this is half your business. One day when I die, this is half your business,' your dad was joking. Your dad was just an old man and a joker." And the daughter was like, "What are you talking about? I have the papers right here." And she pulled out papers. And Marlena said, "Where is my name? Where is my grandmother's name? Where's my family name? How is this is not even stamped from, this is not even legal. How is this even, like, where's the Deslende? What do you own here?" And the woman was like, "What?" The woman got herself a lawyer, and the lawyer said, "That's nothing. Those are just faulty, those papers are nothing. Your dad owned nothing. And no one can prove anything." So she did that. In the meantime, the guy from Canada, he was still in touch with her, and he was still sending her money, and he was still coming down for his visits every few months. And she was just living high off the hog, and she was living a really good life. One day, the Canadian guy, he was going through a divorce. I don't know why, nobody knows why, but he contacted Marlena, and he told Marlena that he needed to sell the colmado to someone. Don't worry, she could still work there. He said, that he needs to sell the colmado, but don't worry, she could probably still work there. The new owners that will buy it, they'll let her still work there. He said he's going to try to sell it to foreigners, so they'll really need her there. And she said to him, "You can't sell this." And he said, "What?" And she said, "This does not belong to you." He showed up in the Dominican Republic here, went straight to the business, because he had a good idea of what's going on. When he arrived, he was angry already. He knew, and she told him, "This is not yours." And he tried to take her to the courts. He tried to take her to do everything that he could do to her, and he couldn't do a thing. Not a thing. Nothing was legal and nothing was binding. And she decided that, maybe it is time to sell it and move to New York with her parents. She thought that option is there for her, and why wouldn't she sell the piece of land and go to New York? And she was getting a little scared anyway. She felt like what she did was illegal, obviously, and she thought she was going to get in trouble, so she really wanted to just skip town. So she didn't sell the place. She got her friend, through all the money she had saved and everything, she got her friend to run the place for her. She paid her friend to run the colmado, and she went to New York to visit her family. And she stayed there for a good month and a half, 2 months, and she met someone there, another Dominican. Now, the man that she met was a little bit younger than her by 5 years, And he still lived with his mom and his family, very good Dominican family. He was modeling part-time, and he was also working in a bank, very successful in his own right. And the two of them fell in love big time. And she invited him to come back to the Dominican Republic. She told him about her colmados. She told him about her land. She told him that she could sell it, make a very, very good cent, and move to Punta Cana. And the two of them could get a villa there and have an Airbnb and appeal to a lot of the foreigners that were coming to the South Coast for vacation. And he liked that. He was all cool for it. He said, yes, absolutely. So he came here. He gave his life up, and he came here with her. And she didn't sell the colmado or the land. At first, what they did was they went to Punta Cana just to live for a little while to see if they could actually make it work. And they bumped into a few people who were his friends that he met online. Now, these friends were American, and he met them online, and he was visiting them. Now, he was not of, even though he was Dominican, he really was more of New York culture, more American. So when he met up with these guys in Punta Cana, they really hit it off. These guys were investors. These guys were not really clean investors. They were ripping people off, saying that they were making developments and then taking people's money and stuff like that. So this is what he kind of got caught up in, and he got involved with it. And he started to get involved with other women. And he started to cheat on her left and right with younger women. And she just felt like, wow, he wasn't paying any attention to her. He was going out all hours of the night, hanging with his buddies. And, so she decided that she wasn't going to sell her land yet. She was going to keep her place in Sosua still, the colmado and everything, and see how it works out in Punta Cana. She really couldn't make up her mind what she wanted to do. Until one day, a girl showed up on her doorstep pregnant. A Dominican woman showed up on her doorstep pregnant and told her that she was pregnant with her boyfriend's baby. So what happened was, she obviously said, okay, it's time to leave. It's time to pack up and go. It's not even worth staying in a relationship any longer where the guy is taking from her constantly. Because again, she was providing all the money to him. All the money to him for everything. She even invested a little bit in that crooked business where he took her money, invested it, and she wasn't getting any back. She still hasn't seen a cent from that. She's upset, but she's cut her losses up to, what goes around comes around, and that's how she's living her life out now. She didn't sell the colmado. She didn't sell the cafeteria. She leased it out for 3 years, so she's going to be there for 3 years in Punta Cana, and then she'll be back to Sosua. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. If you have a story, you can send it to 829-702-7726 via WhatsApp. Alrighty, have a wonderful day and enjoy your morning, afternoon, or evening. Big blessings to you. Thank you for subscribing and watching.
Every single day